Hello and welcome to SAT Chapter 2.6 in Quantway Core. So in order to get us ready to do this section, we're going to go back and take another look at some sections we've already completed. All right, so if you recall, back in section 1.6, we talked about water footprint, where we calculated the average amount of water used per person in 3 different countries. So let's take a quick look at the United States here. And if you recall, to calculate this water footprint, we took the amount of water used by the country, which is 821. And since this is 10 to the 9th cubic meters, we follow that by 9 zeros. 7, 8, 9. And we divided that by the number of people. Per capita means per person, so that's why we look at the population. So the population at this time that this data was taken in the United States was 288,958,000. We add those last 3 zeros because of this thousands here. We do the division, and we got 2,841 cubic meters per capita. And that gave us the average amount of water consumed each year by an American. And then if you recall in section 2.1, we looked at population density. And to look at this example, we'll take the state of New York. And what we did there is we took the total number of people, which in this case it's 19.4 million. So since this is millions, not 19.4 people, we're going to move this decimal point over 6 spaces. So we'll move it over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's the population. And the area was 54,555 square miles. When we do this division, we got 356 people per square mile. And that's the average number of people living in each square mile in New York State. So let me just re-emphasize a word I've used a couple of times already, and that's average. So it's clear, it seems pretty obvious that each person in the United States doesn't necessarily use exactly 2,841 cubic meters of water per year. And it seems reasonable that there's not exactly 356 people living in each square mile of New York State. These are averages. These are averages. Some people use probably more than 2,841 cubic meters of water. Some use less. And some square miles in New York State have thousands of people in them. If you go into a city, some square miles in New York have nobody in them if you go into the middle of the mountains. So these are just averages. And so I've used the word average a lot, and there's another word that means the exact same thing. The exact same thing. And that is mean. You may have heard that before. So average and mean exactly the same thing. Kind of like 12 and a dozen. So we're going to be using the word mean in this lesson here. So what we did in both of these situations is we took the total amount of the thing we're talking about and divided it by the number of values that contributed to that total. So for example, with our water footprint problem, we took the total number of water used by each person. So we took the amount of water used by each person, totaled it up, and divided by the number of people using. Although in this case, the totaling was already done for us. In the New York State example, we took the total number of people in each square mile. We went to each square mile, counted up the number of people, and came up with that total of 19 million. And we divided it by the number of square miles that contributed to that total. So in this problem situation, Question number 1 is on page 226, but in order to answer that, you're going to need to look at this paragraph here. I just copied this here off the bottom of page 225. You're going to have to read through that for a couple different problems in this section, but certainly for number 1. There's a lot of information packed in there, and they just want you to dig through there and ferret it out. So why don't you read this paragraph carefully in your book or on screen here, and then go take a look at number 1 on page 226.